Hi there, it's Marie-Louise here, and I wanted to talk to you about my fertility story, my infertility story, and how it all started. Sometimes women have babies unexpectedly, sometimes they planned it their whole life, sometimes things just happen, and it's a different story for everybody. So I wanted to tell you mine. I have started a journey lately about telling the world about what happened with my fertility. And I am one of the few YouTube stories that is doesn't end in a success story. And it's really important to me to tell the world why and how, because I know there are a lot of women out there who are like me and who just didn't get the dream that they wanted. And I want them to know that there is life after that. But to do that, I first want to start with how it all started and how it happened for me. So I grew up the youngest of five, one of 32 grandchildren on one side of my family and seven, they're going to kill me, eight on the other. And so I was always around kids. I grew up in a parish where there were lots of kids, big schools, and I was part of a lot of communities that are extracurricular communities outside school, obviously. And I was surrounded by kids all the time. Kids came to me. I was very comfortable with kids. Kids seemed to like me even when I was no longer a kid. And that was all great. But I was never that woman who wanted a baby from birth. Think about your group of friends. You've probably known somebody in the past, or maybe you still do, who just is the most nurturing of women, who has had the names of her children picked out since she was born and probably fought tooth and nail to get them when she met somebody and had children later on. That wasn't me. I was okay. I actually didn't really think too much about it. As like a young adult, I actually had a feeling something would happen with regard to kids. I've had a few psychic moments over the years, but I wouldn't necessarily, I don't do readings or anything like that. But I definitely had this feeling. But I was really young at the time. I was 21, 22. Not in any way was I thinking about having children at that stage. So for the most part, I put it beside me, put it behind me, just put it aside, just didn't think too much about it because it really wasn't what my life was at the time. So it didn't occur to me. As I was going through my 20s, the cravings didn't begin. I didn't get that yearning. I wasn't so desperate to have children. I wasn't looking for somebody so that I could have children, which is, that's an essential part of life for some women. And I don't begrudge that at all. But it wasn't really me. I was quite comfortable working and dating. And, I had some relationships at the time. In fact, when I was, I probably had a 6-month or so relationship early on, and then I had a 4-year relationship and a 2-year relationship. But in my 20s, we weren't talking about children. That was not even on our radar. We were just going out and having fun and being young, which is, by the way it should be, unless you really have plans. So at that stage, it didn't really matter. And then when I hit my 30s, I was sort of thinking, yeah, maybe time to settle down, see how we go. And then I met somebody and everything changed. So what really changed for me, what made me want to have a baby, was love. Because I met a guy who I fell for pretty quickly. We had a fairly short romance, and then we got engaged and got married. And I remember driving with him to visit my dad, and we were driving down a street, and in Melbourne, it's Sydney Road, and you drive down there, all these bridal shops, and it's quite fantastic if that's the sort of thing you're looking for. And you know what? The wedding had never been really on my agenda either. I was fine with getting married if the right person came along, but I wasn't busting for it. But suddenly I met this guy, and here we were driving along, going to see my dad. I don't think it was the first time I was introducing him, but we were driving along, and I was seeing all these bridal shops, and we were just talking about our future, and getting married was part of that. And it just kind of occurred to me, we're going to have a baby. Sooner or later, this guy and I are having a baby. We are doing the whole thing. And we talked about it, and it was what we both wanted. And it was sort of amazing for both of us, because he'd also been in a very long, like for all my relationships, he'd been in one long relationship. And I know from what he said that he and his ex-girlfriend had never really gotten into that kind of thing. They'd been together a long time, but it just hadn't gotten to that point. So it was kind of new for both of us, and we were super excited, and it was just part of the plan. And from that point on, we started putting in place the steps that we would need to take to make it happen. So we started our planning for our engagement. Well, he proposed, obviously. Sometimes it's just agreed upon, but in this instance, he surprised me and proposed, which was lovely. And we started preparing for our life together. So when we were preparing for our life, some of the things that we were talking about were the names of the children we would have, what types of schools they would go to. He was from overseas, so he had a different education to me. And we tried to talk about his upbringing, my upbringing. And what we really wanted to do was bring the best of both of our upbringings, if that's a word, to the child that we would have, or the children that we would have. We didn't set a number for how many we wanted. I think we probably wanted, because he was one of 2 and I was one of 5, I think we were sort of looking for somewhere in between. And we just really started thinking about what we wanted. And when we bought a house just after we got married, we did that based on the schools that it was near. So it was really a huge part of the plan that we had for the rest of our lives. We would talk about just the practicalities of things. I drove, he didn't drive, and we were talking about things like when I would go into labor, how I would get to the hospital, who was going to drive the kids to school, things like that. Of course, that was part of the reason why we wanted the house to be near a school, at least near a primary school. And obviously kindergarten and things like that as well, which the house that we bought was near. So everything we did from that point on was with children in mind. And it was such an exciting time. And if you think about if you've been through that, or if you've met somebody and you're just like, God, he would be a great dad. And you think about that person and you picture him doing what he wants to be doing and what you want him to be doing, and bringing out his best side and showing him being the dad he wants to be, showing the children all sorts, God knows what's, and, you passing along your traits and characteristics and the things that you like and your talents, and watching the child bring out the child's talents come out. It's a fabulous time. And so we were really sure. We were really, really sure. We had all the names picked out. In fact, I remember one time somebody close to us was due to have their baby, and I was driving at the time, and I got a text on my phone, and I was like, "Yep, check that if you wouldn't mind." And he had a look, and he's like, "Oh, the baby's come," and I said, "Oh, great." And he told me the gender, and I said, "Oh, cool." And I said, "What's the name?" And he's like, "You won't want to pull over." And so I pulled over and found that somebody quite close to us had used one of the names that we had chosen. Now, I'm not 100% sure whether they knew. I've never brought it up to them. It's not the point. The point is, that's how close we were. That's how serious we were about having children. We were arguing about names because he wanted certain names and I was vetoing, and I wanted certain names and he was vetoing. And I mean arguing, not like, but it was like we were really going to have to come to some sort of agreement at some point. But at that time, we were not agreed on those particular names. We had a few that we definitely agreed on, but we weren't set on those. So we were dead set. We were absolutely dead set. And it's an amazing feeling when you're planning your life with somebody and planning such a future. I don't know. I remember at the time, I couldn't think of anything that felt better back then. And now, obviously, as I said at the start of the video, that's not what happened. I am infertile and I have not had children. So it's been pretty heartbreaking since, and I'll certainly go into more about that in another video. But for today, I really just wanted to talk to you about how it started for me, because everybody's baby experience, baby planning, everyone, like the conception, everything is different for everybody. And you can't really get into the nitty-gritty of things without knowing where it started. And I really wanted you to know exactly how serious I was. And I was certainly looking after myself. I was doing as much as I could to be healthy. And it just didn't happen in the end. But I will go into much more about that in future videos. I can assure you of that. So if this video is helpful to you, if any of it resonates with you, if you're one of those women who really, really, really wanted to have a baby and you know now that your chances are nil or next to nil, or as a doctor once said to me, not even a snowball's chance in hell, stay tuned. Follow me here. Take notice of what I'm saying. Maybe you'll feel a kinship with me, and that's a good thing, because I can tell you, and you probably understand this more than anybody, this is a very lonely feeling. It's a very lonely place to be one of the few people who really, really wanted and can't have, but is ready to move on. And I am ready to move on. And so I'm telling my story to anybody who'll hear it, because I've made a decision that I'm not going to be the sad person that I have been in the last few years. I've been really trying to get used to the idea of life without children. And you know what? I'm getting there. It's been a little frustrating today because I've had to delay making this video because there were so many kids in the street outside who are having a blast. But I couldn't talk to you about this stuff while they were all out there having fun. I'm really glad they're out there enjoying themselves, but there's a little bit of opposition between what I'm saying and what they're doing. And so I really needed to take a minute and gather myself and come to you with the right information that I wanted to bring across to you, because it's hard living in a world full of children, full of happy parents, and that's the way it is. It's absolutely the way it is, and it's the way it should be to a large degree. But that's not me. That's not my life. And I'll be sharing more about my life and how it works and how we can all move forward in coming videos. So make sure you're following, make sure you're subscribing, and the notification bell, make sure you click that so that you see when I go live. I don't always go live. Sometimes I just do videos, but make sure you are ready to see it. And if you know of anybody who you think may be going through an infertility situation that will never end, because it will never end in success for them, please do make sure you share this video with them. And I will catch you really, really soon. See ya.